Today, I'd like to introduce you to the latest iteration in what is quite a long-running project of mine. I think if we think about it holistically, I've probably been working on this for at least half of my career at ExtraHop, and that is building some sort of a simpler way for less code comfortable users to interact with the ExtraHop REST API to perform more complicated administrative actions. And this has gone through a number of versions. I think the first shot at this was probably Vince Strauss putting together his Chrome extension, 10, 11 years ago. And folks like myself and Eugene and a few others who've worked at ExtraHop over the years have put in some effort to try to evolve this. This particular iteration I've been working on for around a year. So what is it and why do you care? This is a surface for performing quite a few of these administrative tasks that you probably deal with often if you administrate a large ExtraHop deployment or you work with a number of different ExtraHop deployments. So the idea here is you're an ExtraHop administrator at a company with a reasonably large deployment and complicated administration, or you're something like an ExtraHop customer success manager or solutions architect or sales engineer, where you are routinely interacting with ExtraHop environments that belong to multiple customers, meaning you have multiple tenants to deal with. This allows you to collect data and perform basic administrative tasks without spending a lot of time building scripts. So let's go through a quick overview. This will not be an exhaustive tour. I want you to get in and explore it yourself. Ask me questions. Happy to help. So first off, what do we get out of this? So here's kind of where we land when we authenticate, and we can see a ExtraHop deployment, and we are able to see the different connected appliances, their names, models, firmware versions, and whether or not they're eligible for an upgrade. When an appliance is eligible for an upgrade, you'll see the version that is eligible to go up to here, and clicking on a particular appliance allows you to see information like its name, status, etc., other things pulled back from the API, as well as the target versions it's eligible to move to. And you are able to kick off those upgrades from right here, which they will be monitored from right here. So this represents one more option for kind of fleet firmware management. This offers the ability to do grouping and filtering, so you can have this view represent the way you want to interact with the deployment. It also has a topological view where I can come in through here and filter out different types of appliances and be able to understand the different devices I have across the different appliance categories that I have deployed. So what are some of the other big features? I'll walk through a few of them quickly. Audit log analysis, so you can put in a certain number of lookback days and batch size and run an audit log analysis. And this will pull the audit log entries from those days and break them down by type of entry, number of logins per day, and number of login events by user, so you can see who your most active users are, as well as all the audit log entry broken down for each day per each user account that interacted with it or API credential. This is less imperative now that we have good system usage metrics built right into ExtraHop, but I still find this to be nice. And this is another way to get your audit log. So if you look here, you can export the results to CSV, which will be the full audit log that was pulled. One of the most useful features is probably the dashboard manager. The dashboard manager does exactly what it sounds like. It gives you a single surface to manage all of the dashboards across the entire ExtraHop deployment. Today, only a dashboard owner can administrate a dashboard that they own. And as an administrator, it can be challenging to maintain a good grip on all the dashboards that might exist in the environment and deal with situations where dashboards have been broadly shared and then abandoned, or deal with situations where ownership needs to move, consolidation, etc. You can do almost anything from here that I can think of you would want to do with dashboards. You're able to do advanced filtering by keys such as name of dashboard, owner of dashboard, and last recorded activity. Last recorded activity was an idea from an ExtraHop former customer and current solutions architect, where being able to filter based on the last time a dashboard was touched could be very valuable. This is done by correlating with system usage metrics. So if I use last recorded activity, I can do things like not recorded within to look up dashboards that are not readily used. The dashboards that have not been touched in the last 7 days shows me that the majority of the dashboards in this environment were not looked at. I can then say, okay, that's interesting. Let's expand this further and see what is truly inactive. The metrics in this appliance go back as far as 91 days. This is dynamically filled. And so we'll go ahead and say, let's see, based on what we know, how far back this goes. While this number did expand, we now see that the lion's share of the dashboards in this environment are probably trash. And that makes sense. There's quite a few. And this is an internal lab. I can stack filters. So I can say, I would also like to only look at instances of dashboards that contain the substring 365. And now I have just all of the 41 Office 365 dashboards across users, or dashboards applied to a tenant that contain 365 in the name that are probably abandoned. I can manage these accordingly. I could select all the ones on this page, or select all the ones that match the filter if it's more than one page, and then change the owner, modify the sharing, or bulk delete them. If I want to bulk delete them, that's easy to do. And if this is an enterprise environment and I'm deleting more than 100, it will do things like prompt me to take a system config backup first, give me a rollback point in case this was a huge mistake. I would encourage you to explore this and play with this if this is something you think you might could get value out of. Let's touch on a couple more features before we wrap up and look at installation. There's a devices report and network localities manager. We'll skip over devices report for now. You're welcome to go check that out on your own. And I want to show the network localities manager. This gives you a way to manage multiple network localities at one time. In ExtraHop, if you want to manage network localities, you open up the one you want, you edit it, and you save it, or you can create one new one at a time. Through here, we can actually load all the existing network localities, make changes to multiple ones, and then take our changes and push them all to production at once using the Save Changes button. Additionally, we can upload many localities by importing a CSV that contains the headers listed here. They'll all be batch added when imported. This should offer users that have to manage many network localities or are moving many network localities from one environment to another a much easier path. Records report. Let's run a report for the previous 7 days of records and generate it. I'll show you here on the right that capacity data is also possible to correlate. So if you have access to the actual true capacity data from ExtraHop, with regards to what true usage was, you can export that from ExtraHop Salesforce and import it here. So this will be most applicable for ExtraHop employees like solutions architects, sales engineers, or customer success managers, which will actually allow you to see things like the true capacity utilization and the true achieved compression ratio between the true measured uncompressed record bytes being ingested at the appliance and how they're actually landing in the record store. This gives you a breakdown of which individual sites are producing the most records and how that breaks down on a stacked bar chart across the organization with all the data in a table. This next feature probably merits an entire video of its own, and we may do that separately, but I want to give you a high-level view of the system health report. If you're a CSM or an administrator looking to report on your ExtraHop deployment and track performance over time and be a good steward of that environment, this will probably be one of your favorite features. So from here, you can select a look-back period and metric cycle and run the report, and it will populate it with a full system health view of the environment. Now, we actually enable theme editing here, and the real value in this is so that if you want to export these charts to something like a slide deck and match them to your company colors, you can create a custom theme to do that. So I can do something here like choose some colors that might be interesting to me for low and elevated risk level, as well as things that are truly at capacity. Just choosing some random colors here. What color I want my text to be, we'll do something really hideous, and what color I want my background to be. And I also have the option to set a transparent background. Once I have colors selected, I can save this as a theme. And it will appear here alongside the pre-existing themes. Now, we'll go ahead and use the default light theme. The theme that is selected here is normally going to be on auto, and this will reflect the theme that you choose to use as you interact with the overall tool. And we do have light and dark theme available, or auto to match the OS. So we'll leave it on auto for now and look at some of the data it pulls back. Just going to do a high level here. So for every appliance model type, we track a number of different metrics, including packet rate, throughput, and trigger utilization for sensors. We also break down analysis capacity showing by each model, tabable through the models, what the analysis capacity usage looks like. Anytime the advanced analysis is full, it will bleed over into standard, or if there are rules that cause this to be split, and then any devices in discovery show up here. Great way to get a high-level view of the environment. For each chart, if sensors reported as offline or didn't return, those will show up here at the bottom versus cluttering up the chart. For packet store, we do some pretty cool stuff. So we're going to break down your retention period from least to most, as well as give you the average retention across each sensor, which is what these tick lines are for. We also report health metrics for packet stores, so things like packet drops and secret drops, and the highest processing load they achieved in the previous week. This can be useful to see the packet stores that are periodically getting hammered, even though that might not show up in actual drops. And then down here, we have very useful tables that show when appliances have some metrics that are undesirable, and specifically calls out the columns that represent those undesirable states. So if I scroll down for packet sensors, we can see that we have a couple of sensors in the yellow, and we can see exactly why those sensors are in the yellow. The last thing I'll call out here on this page, and one that is probably worth a deeper dive, is exporting the data for usage. So once I have a theme selected, I can go here and I can actually export this data a number of ways. One great one is a PowerPoint export. So by choosing a PowerPoint export, I'm able to title it and set a presenter name if I want. I don't have to. It'll fill this stuff out automatically with data that's available otherwise, and export the PowerPoint. Once I have this PowerPoint exported, I can load it up, and you'll see that it is a fully featured built PowerPoint with summary, recommended steps, and information about the deployment that you can show to your customer or your leadership to help understand the state of the ExtraHop deployment and what you might need to support it, all generated through code in the backend. This doesn't require any AI or any additional third-party services. This is all being generated locally in a couple of seconds. I'd encourage you to play with it, try some of the other themes, make your own, and see if you can make this tool fit for you. Okay, I think that's enough for the demo. Let's look at how we get started. The first thing you're going to do is go to the releases page on my GitHub. Thomas WDE, the repo is EH-admin tools, and go to releases. You're going to probably want to grab the most recent release. To do that, all I have to do is click on this top asset here, this zip file, and download it to my machine. I have a directory prepared for it already. Now that that's been downloaded, let's look at how easy this thing is to stand up. One quick note, this is only currently compatible with Linux or Mac OS deployments. Now you might notice that this appears to be a Windows system, and that's fine because Windows has Windows Subsystem for Linux, WSL, which represents a great way to host this deployment. So I have Windows WSL configured and turned on this Windows system, which is just a couple of clicks to get that going if you are not already using it. And now that I've downloaded it, I can tab over to my File Explorer where I can see where that download has landed here in my Linux path under Ubuntu, which is where I chose to download it. Now we're going to do the next couple of steps through the CLI, since if you're doing this on a Linux machine, that might be how you have to interact with it. And I'd rather show you the more complicated path and let you figure out the easier one on your own. Quite simple though. So from that directory, which we can see the zip archive right here, I'm just going to use unzip, which may not be installed for you, but it's easy enough to add to your environment, or you can use the built-in tar feature. We're going to unzip that archive. We're now going to change directory with CD into that archive. I'm going to put in the first couple of letters and hit tab to autocomplete and go into that directory. Now that we're in that directory, I'm just going to clear my screen to keep this clean, and we're going to look at what's here. So this is not necessary, but I just want to show you briefly. This is what's landed in that archive. We can see a few files here, and the one you're looking for is either start here or start. So on a Mac system, you can actually just double click start here if you're doing this through the UI, and that will launch everything. Or you can just run the start.sh script. An easy way to do that on Linux or Mac is to do /start and then press enter. While that's running, I'm going to bring my browser back up, and you'll notice it did it for me before I could even do it, because it automatically is going to grab your default browser and launch you into the workspace. And that is literally all there is to get this going. Now, installation may take a few more minutes for you than it did for me, because it might need to set up more. Mine has been set up in the past, so deploying it only takes a few seconds, but this is a fresh deployment. Now you might notice here, if I go to the top right to look at auth, which is something that I decided to hold off and to show you until the end, is that I already have some saved connections. So this tool saves the connections for you either in the Linux Secrets Manager or the macOS keychain. This allows you to store credentials safely and securely and have them persist and survive across installations. So the workflow I just did would have represented a perfectly good way to upgrade from an old version to a new version of this tool, but doing so wouldn't cause me to need to re-input all of my credentials. I can simply choose the one I want to use and hit connect, and I will be right back in business using the tool. You'll also notice here that this will allow you to store credentials for 360 consoles, enterprise consoles, and individual appliances. So if you have a console and many appliances, you can actually manage those appliances individually, and all the features available for that appliance will be here. So I can go straight to an appliance, click on it, upgrade its firmware if I like, go check out dashboards installed locally on that appliance, do a devices report for that local device to see what devices exist there, and have a look at that. Records report for that specific device, manage that device's network localities if they're local, etc. So very, 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 very handy. Okay, so that should represent everything for this tour today. Love for you guys to check this out. Hopefully you get some value out of it. Reach out to me if you have any questions.